So Ben, my man, what's going on, sir?
Not too much. How's it going, dude?
It's going good, sir. So you brought your co-host with you today.
Oh yeah, ET comes with me everywhere when it comes to moto vlogging,
That's awesome. You
or at least when I'm a talking head on it.
there you go. You put him on the back of your bike. Now that'd be awesome.
I thought about it. I just don't want him to get ruined. I'm very partial to
That's fair.
him.
So for the viewers at home that do not follow your channel, give us the elevator pitch, sir.
All right, I am Bikes, Beards, and Brews. I am out of the Boston, Mass area. I would give you the specific town, but then we'd spend another 20 minutes trying to tell you where the hell that town is. So Boston, Mass. That's what we're
Boston,
doing.
Mass. Fair enough.
Um, I do motovlogging. I do very bad videos on how to add parts to your bike here and there. And I think I'm probably most known for the videos I personally like the least, which are the Grinds My Gears series. And yeah, that's it. Bikes, Beards, Brews. I feel like the name tells you everything that's you're gonna find on this channel.
Sure. So what do you currently ride?
Right now, I ride a 2018 Road Glide Special in the very hard to find unicorn color of vivid black. My bike is named the Death Eater Betty Page because I'm a giant nerd and I'm not going to take the time to explain Death Eater to you if you don't know what it is.
Okay. Fair enough. I knew who Betty Page was. I was interested, but all right. Hell yeah. So I like and when we need to put a picture up of your bike, but I love the color combination between the red and the black. I think that's fantastic.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely something that I've slowly been working through. I now recommend to people, like I see people in chat groups all the time talking about like, hey, I want to slap this on my bike and this on my bike. And like, there's no coherency there. And I'm actually like, hey, learn from my mistakes. Ride your bike for like maybe 6 months or something and then decide what you want to do. Because I actually, before I did the red and black, I had a lot of Arlen Ness stuff on there.
Okay.
And then nothing against Arlen Ness, but I just wanted to go in a different direction. So I actually ended up replacing a lot of stuff that I already replaced. So you let it twice or three times.
So how many seats are you on? Because I'm on my third already, and
I've actually only gone through the stock seat and my current saddlement. And
Okay.
that's it. I love my saddlement. I first discovered them when I had my Dyna Wide Glide. I spent a lot of time researching, and it was like a tie between Saddlemen and Lucky Dave's. And then I started hearing
Hmm.
that like Saddlemen was actually making Lucky Dave seats. I don't know if that's true or not, but I was like, if that's the case, I might as well just go with the originals. I really liked it on my Wide Glide, so when I went to the Road Glide, I was like, I'm just going to stick with this. I had a custom stitch one done up, and I haven't looked back since.
Very nice. So at what age did you start riding?
I want to say I started riding maybe around like 25. I was kind of
Okay.
late in the game. I'm old now,
Yeah.
so
Oh, I was way late in the game. Trust me.
it was
What did you?
actually
Go ahead.
sorry, go
Sorry.
ahead.
No.
Oh, it was actually kind of like I decided I wanted to ride finally, and I started searching Craigslist. I live on what's considered the North Shore of Massachusetts. So I started looking at Craigslist for a motorcycle that was affordable. And at the time, I made shit for money. So affordable for me was a couple $100. I found a crate special, like 86 or 87 Yamaha Sika 750 down on the South
Nice.
Shore, which was like over, I don't know, it was probably like 2 hours away. And I got my buddy to take a ride with me, go down, check these out. It was actually one that was kind of finished and then like a donor bike and then crates of parts and nothing was fully put together. So I bought all that for a couple $100, brought it out to my buddy's house in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we started working on it in his garage whenever we had free time. I finally got the thing kind of up and running. I needed starter fluid to get to start every time. It had no front brakes. The back brakes kind of worked. The whole bike rattled when you drove it because like nothing was tight. he lived on a cul-de-sac. So the cul-de-sac was kind of like U-shaped. So I go to the end of his cul-de-sac, set the bike up there, and then I would drive as fast as I could to the end of his street, which led out to like a main sort of like highway. And when I got a few hundred feet from the main highway, I would pop the clutch and I'd start grinding my shoes into the ground to try and stop the bike before I rode into the traffic. And I did that for a couple months until one day I got a call from my uncle who I had never talked to or hadn't talked to since I was like, I don't know, 5 or some crap. And he was like, "Hey, you know your dad that walked out on you when you were young?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, he died, and the court's requiring me to contact you and let you know. So if you want to come look at some of his stuff and take things, you can." I went up to his house. He had an 84, I want to say, Honda Nighthawk 450
Nice.
that was just sitting in his garage that he bought for his wife at the time because she thought about riding. And my dad was very mechanically inclined. So he replaced all the seals. He like this bike was just cherry. It needed tires because it had been sitting for so long. And I saw that it didn't have a key for the ignition. So I saw this bike and I'm like, I'm taking the bike. Loaded into a truck, took off. I had a key cut for the thing and had the tires swapped, and I rode that for a couple months. And then I found out that like, man, that thing had no balls. Like, I would ride it from Manchester, New Hampshire to Concord, New Hampshire, and I'd take 93, the highway over there. It did like 0 to 60 in like maybe a half an hour on a downhill with the wind against my back and a sail up. Like, it was awful. So, but has a very special spot in my heart because like it was my first true bike. So one day I was like, oh, you know what? It's time for a bigger bike. At the time, my credit sucked ass. I couldn't finance like a pack of Reese's Pieces. I don't know. But one of my friends who I worked with had a Kawasaki credit card. Just bought an ATV. Just finished paying the thing off, and he's like, "Hey, if you want, I'll buy you a bike. You just make the payments on the thing, and we'll do this." And I was like, "Shit, let's go." Went over to the Kawasaki dealership.
There's a friend.
Yeah, I mean, the dude is awesome. He's the greatest dude. Um, Went to the Kawasaki dealership. I got a Ninja 600. The best part was I bought that thing, we threw the plate on it, and I took it home. The girl I was dating at the time didn't know any of this stuff. Like I didn't tell her I was looking into another bike. I didn't tell her I was thinking about buying one, nothing. So I pull into the driveway. She comes out. She goes, "What's that?" I go, "That's a motorcycle." And I should preface this with, I didn't really like her and I was trying to get her to break up with me at the time. So I just did stuff that would anger her. um, she was a really huge drama queen. So I knew if I broke up with her, I would never hear the end of it.
Oh
But
no, no. Mm-mm.
I also knew that she didn't like to admit she was wrong. So the goal was to get her to break up with me. So
Okay.
I just did all the horrible things to get her to like finally break up. So nonetheless, I bring this bike home. She comes out. She goes, "What's that?" I go, "It's a motorcycle." She goes, "Whose is it?" I go, "It's mine." She goes, "When did you decide to buy a bike?" I'm like 2 hours ago. She's like, "We're not going to talk about this?" I'm like, "Isn't that what we're doing now?" And she's like, "Well, this is a major purchase." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." And then she's like, "Well, we should talk about major purchases." I'm like, "All right, well, do I pay my half of the rent?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do I pay for groceries?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do I pay my bills?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do I still take you out for like dinner and stuff like that?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do I borrow money off of you?" She's like, "No." I'm like, end of conversation. My bike, my bill, my problem.
There
We're
you
done.
go.
So I actually ended up keeping that bike for about 10 years. I loved it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I did everything with. I drove that bike from Manchester, New Hampshire to Greensboro, North Carolina in one night. Um,
Wow.
just stuff like that. I mean, I did so much ridiculous stuff with that bike. I loved it to death. And then I finally got to the point where I'm like, all right, I'd like to get a cruiser. So I started looking around. I was actually going to get a victory. And then when I started looking at the victories, that's when they folded. So I was like, well, that sucks. and
Yeah, I know that story well.
yeah, and I had people going, oh, don't worry, they're going to support parts for 10 years. I'm like, yeah, here's the problem. I'm coming off a bike I've had for 10 years.
Hmm.
I'm like, even if they support them for 10 years, it's not like they just the taps on full until the last year and then they shut it off. They're going to start winding that down. So a couple of years from now, parts are going to get very expensive. They're going to get very hard to find. You're going to have less people working on them, less people supporting these bikes. And the closer to 10 years you get, the more likely you're just going to have in a paperweight you can't sell to anyone. So I don't want to do that. And it sucked because I was looking at like the Hammer, the Judge, a couple others.
I wanted that Vision. I thought that Victory Vision was awesome. It
Oh,
was
I
so
hated the
ugly. It was
Vision.
just great.
It looked like if the Nike swoosh had wheels on it and they just
Oh,
called
I
it.
mean, it was a train wreck, but that's what I loved about it because it was like if I pulled up next to a Harley, someone's chest would just blow out, you know?
Yeah, I looked at that thing. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? But, and, and like I was so furious with Polaris, and it was like, to me, in my mind, it was like, you didn't even have to. You could have gotten rid of the Victory name, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But you could have folded in some of these performance bikes into your Indian line because Indian didn't have them, so there was no redundancy. You could have took like the Judge and changed it to like the Tomahawk and like the freaking Vegas to like the Indian Casino or whatever,
The
because
Indian
clearly they were going for the
Casino,
whole. They were going for all
the
the Native
tobacco
American.
store, or whatever.
Yeah, because I mean everything they were doing was like chief, chieftain, So it was like I understand they were going for like that whole thing, but I was like, you could have folded these in. You could have did that. I mean, they basically did that with the Octane. That thing isn't much different than the Scout. Again, the Scout.
Yeah.
So like, um, and that just annoyed me, and I hated the way the Indians looked because everything was just giant and bubbly and stupid. So I didn't really have any flesh in the game. I looked around at other bikes. I was willing to do just about any motorcycle line if I liked the bike. Nothing really grabbed me as much as like a Wide Glide did. So I ended up on a 2013 Wide Glide. Um,
What
if
paint
you,
color?
oh, the very hard to find unicorn color vivid black.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Jeff, the one with the flames. I don't know why. I always liked that one. I
Oh
always thought the
well, and
flames
that
one
was the
was
thing.
cool.
Like the 2013 was like they had flames on a ton of them. More likely than not, you got them with flames. So mine being straight black was actually kind of weird for
Oh, it
the.
was kind of a unicorn. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just vivid black and.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's and actually, I put out a video called Dealership Nightmare, and that was actually my whole buying experience with the Wide Glide. Like, I'll never go back to that dealership again. It was horrible. I rode that for a few months, I want to say, and then I got into an accident with it. Came out of that relatively unscarred. I definitely had a bunch of injuries. My wife was with me. She came out completely unscarred, but she no longer felt comfortable riding on that bike. So I ended up going with the Road Glide after that. The really fun part was when I got the Wide Glide. We had talked about me getting rid of the sport bike and getting a cruiser. And at the time we were getting married. So it was when I still had the Ninja. And she's like, you're, no bikes, no nothing until the wedding's over. And this is that, this and that, it's all done. So wedding was over, all the this and that was done. So I was like, cool, now I want a cruiser. And she was like, no, not until this and that. I'm like, you can't keep moving the goalposts. so so one day she decides she's gonna go see her sister in Arizona. So
Big
she
mistake.
oh yeah, she flies out to Arizona. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna go look at some bikes. So I'm down at this dealership and I saw the bike that I wanted. So I started filling out the paperwork, and her and I start texting back and forth. And she's like, "What are you up to?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm at this total shithole of a bike shop." I didn't call it a shithole at the time. It is. I was like, at this total dumpster fire of a dealership that can go get fucked. I don't care. And she's like, "Well, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm buying a bike." So luckily, she's very understanding. But at the time, I'm pretty sure she wanted to murder me. So when it came time for the road glide, she ended up going to Arizona to go see her sister. So I'm texting her again. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm over at Boston Harley." And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Buying a road glide." After that, I don't recall her ever going to Arizona again without me. So it started to get to the point where, like, whenever she left, I just went out and bought a bike.
I mean, that
And
seems fair. You were bored. You wanted something to do. I mean, you could have
yeah.
been doing worse things.
Well, and that's the thing. So I always mess with her. Anytime she's not home, I just do weird ass shit. Um, Either by myself or with the dogs and stuff like that. Like, we have three dogs. And she'll come home and she's just like, "The fuck?" And I'm like, "Hey, this is all on you. You left me unattended." Like, so yeah, that's basically how that goes.
So what did you so you have the Road Glide, which is the next by far the next bike I want to move to. Have you done any engine work to it? I mean, cosmetically I know it's stunning, but have you done
Yeah.
any internal work to it?
I don't get into my engine too much.
Okay.
But I do have a trusted mechanic that I've actually dropped their name on my channel a few times. It's Boyd Cycle in Peabody, Mass. They do my engine work for me,
Okay.
because, like, one of the things I always see and I always kind of chuckle about, like, if you ever, like, get into any of these, like, Facebook motorcycle groups or something, there's always somebody who's like, "Oh, hey, I'm thinking about upgrading my cams this week. I got a $20 ratchet set from Walmart, and I think I saw a YouTube video once that talked about replacing a seat. I think I can do this." And then, like, there's always like 20 guys that are like, "Oh yeah, it's no problem. Just go right in there and do it." And then, like, a week later, the same people are there going, "Yeah, my bike doesn't start anymore," or "My engine got shredded on the side of the highway," or, like, "My bike's on fire. Should I call the fire department?" It's completely absurd, the stuff that I see. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm going to let a professional plug around on the inside of my bike. So so far the head pipe's been replaced, the catalytic converter's been removed. I have a Cobra Pro Chamber head pipe, Cobra Neighbor Hater slip-on exhaust. I have a new oil pump inside because, like, they always have those issues.
Yeah.
I have a Cyclorama cam on there. I have a Thundermax tuner, an Arlen Ness big air sucker,
Nice.
and then there's some other, like, little things that are done. And we'll be going to, like, stage 3 probably in the winter.
So you're at stage 2 already.
Correct.
And now what do you feel, and I'm actually glad that we having this conversation. So you rolled the bike off. How long did you have it stock?
So I kept it stock. I I guess, to me, stock was stage 1.
Okay,
Uh,
that's fair. So it rolled out stage 1.
well, so no, I rolled it out stock, and I had it stock for probably about a month, and then I put the big air sucker on, and I put the Cobra Neighbor Haters on, and I brought it and I had it tuned with the Thunder Max. And I left it that way for 2 years because that's the length of the Harley's warranty on the engine. So for me, it's like, I work in IT, I do technical support and stuff like that. And I know that, when you're cashing in on warranties and stuff, that's another thing. You see that on, like, Facebook groups and all that, where everyone's like, "Oh, you can't void your warranty if you keep documentation and
Mm-hmm.
records and all this." And that may be true. That may be very accurate. But at the end of the day, you need to go fight a multi-million-dollar company with some lawyer you just picked out of a phone book to try and win that, like, lawsuit if they want to fight you on that. And I'm not down for that. So to me, it was like, I'll keep it at stage one. If I have some sort of engine problem, I could throw the, stock exhaust on in, stock air cleaner in like an hour. I can have that Thunder Max pulled off, no problem. And the original, like mapping put on there, no problem. Like I just decided to leave it like that and just keep it that way. And as soon as that 2 years was up, I was like, okay, I want more horsepower, I want more sound, I want this to actually be a Harley. So Calais converter came out, head pipe came off, like the cams went in, the new oil pump went in, all that stuff. So it was just new push rods, all that crap.
So what were you seeing? I mean, how? I mean, everything's. I guess you can dyno it, but the gain from one to two, was it as significant as it seems? Because in talking to, we were at the dealer this weekend talking about that, and it's everyone's opinion, right? I have a 103 now, and I'll be honest, I don't know that I need more power, but let's say I wouldn't want more power, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And that's the thing, is it's like, I mean, with Harleys, you can definitely keep pumping power out of it, and it just comes down to like, how much do you want? How much are you
Mhm.
actually going to use? How much? Because I think a lot of people, like, you see the people that are just going to like 131s and then they're building up the 131 and all that. It's like, how much of that power are you leaving on the table just so you can spend a couple extra grand to build up that engine to tell people you have it? I
Mhm.
mean, that's like, it's like buying a Corvette so you can commute into Boston every day. Great, your car can do 200 miles an hour, but you know what? Most of the time, it's going to be parked on the fucking highway.
And that's honestly the only reason I wanted stage one was for more sound out of it. In that cool little, and I wanted to have it just a different air cleaner because I'm a dork.
Yeah.
But but yeah, then yeah, we were talking and the guy's like, "Well, do you want the what is it? It's the there's the torque and then there's the speed or what's the other cam that Harley makes? There's torque
There's a
and
torque cam and a horsepower cam.
horsepower cam, and he's going back and forth and back and forth." And I'm like, I probably just don't need either. I'll just get the
Well,
little badge thrown on the side. People will believe me.
so I mean, I had the 103 in the Y Glide, and I loved it because I love the sound, I love the shake. Like, to me, that's what a Harley should be.
How do people complain about that? There were people on Discord today complaining about they didn't like the shake of a 103. I'm like, it's not like it's a hard frame bike.
I think when I see that, like when people are like, "Oh, the bike shakes too much," all right, shut the fuck up and go buy a Goldwing then, because clearly you don't want a Harley. I mean, like it's part of the Harley like thing, is like you get the shake. Actually, when I got the Road Glide, I was a little let down because it's got the M8 engine in it, and the M8 runs a lot smoother. And it actually kind of bothered me. So after the 2 years, when I put the new cam in, that actually brought a lot of that shake in there because it's got a different lope and all that stuff.
Okay.
And then when you get rid of the catalytic converter, you get more of that Harley sound.
And that's what I'd want, that lope,
Yeah.
because my buddy's got oh, I couldn't even tell you what year Sportster it is, but it's that lope that it has is just great. It just got that weird offset little blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
It's just cool.
And that's the thing. So with the newer bikes, like they've got the catalytic converter in there, which muffles the sound. They've got the more economical, I guess, for lack of a better term, cam in there, because they're trying to do all the EPA stuff. Which is why, like, I always find it funny when everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I went all like Screaming Eagle parts of my bike." It's like, dude, like the Screaming Eagle stuff, that's great. You're spending thousands to get even less because the Screaming Eagle stuff is all super regulated EPA. Like it's not, you're not getting that power you're hoping for if you went to, like, you start using a performance line like S&S or
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But yeah, like the first
But you
time,
don't void the warranty, so it's a toss off, right? Because
yeah, which is why I'd rather
I'd
just
be
make
the
the
guy
two.
that dumped 5 grand into my bike and then blew it up, and then be like,
But
oh, that was fun.
at the same time, though, so I mean, the way I look at it is, you've got the 2 years where you're on the Harley warranty. You wait until that runs out, and then you go have, like, an S&S kit built into your bike or something like that. An S&S kit, or like, a lot of these other companies, they come with a warranty. So
Okay, yeah.
you look at some of these guys, like I think Hell's on Two Wheels. They had, I want to say it was Moonshine Harley built their
Yep.
Harley up for him, and when he had issues, they came and got the bike. They did all warranty, and they, it was warranty work and fixed up the engine. So you're still getting that warranty. It's just no longer that Harley warranty.
Okay. That makes sense.
So it's, and I guess you could like, do that before the Harley warranty's up. But the way I look at it and the way that it is in my brain is like, you get 2 years of Harley warranty, and then you get, however many years of warranty after that. So it's just more warranty. Like your bike's covered for longer.
Yeah, and I can say that we bought ours used, and we had the ESP, and it's come in handy a few times where it's like, oh, it's $50 to fix that, no problem, just do whatever has to be done.
It's because it's a Harley and they're gonna break. That's what they do.
Well, yeah, there's that. There's that. So what's your jam for riding? Like, what do you? I mean, you've got a touring bike, so obviously you're putting down miles on it. What's a good day for you if you want to go out and ride?
You know, I am horrible at keeping track of how many miles. Sometimes I will pay attention to the miles I'm riding. It's not often.
Okay.
Um, to me, it's like I ride with a few people that like, to them, it's the ride, not the destination. For me, it's the destination, not the ride, but I also do appreciate the ride. So there's times where I'll just get on the highway and go, and I'm just not paying attention because I want the destination. And then I'll ride with these other people who are like, let's stay off the highway and all that. I'm like, cool, let's do it. And it's just like last year, like I said, I live on the North Shore of Mass. I hopped on my bike and drove up to the Ben and Jerry's factory in Vermont. And then from,
Nice.
and then from there, I drove over to Alchemy Brewing in Vermont. And then from there, instead of coming home, I decided to crash at my wife's aunt and uncle's house because they're in Vermont, which is a fantastic story. Because I was following my GPS, and apparently there was a front way and a rear way to get into their house, and I didn't realize this or get to their house. So because I was coming in from the Alchemy Brewery direction, I came in the back way to their house, which turned out to be a 15-mile logging road. So
Nothing
it's
can
just,
go wrong there.
yeah. So I've seen
Was this before or after you got the suspension?
before. It was horrible
Damn it.
because I just got the suspension like maybe a couple weeks ago. But I've seen some moto vloggers who want to tell you how awesome they are because they're on a scrambler and then they get on a very hard packed trail and they talk about how scary and all that. They can go fuck themselves. I took a goddamn road glide down a logging trail in Vermont. Like, um, for people not aware of what a logging trail is, it's a very narrow dirt road that is poorly graded. So there's lots of just dips, ditches, like ravines in the middle. If it's been raining, there'll just be like, cutouts for that. Cars and trucks that do go down these will tear them up. There's giant freaking rocks everywhere. The road I went down was super narrow, and there were just F-150s and stuff bombing down this way.
Oh,
To the right of me was a straight drop, which was maybe about 200 feet, and it just went straight into a ravine. And the side was just a complete soft shoulder. So if I went too far, the sand would just probably give out, and I'd just go and die somewhere. Whatever. So I rode that for 15 miles on a road glide with street tires. So when I see the people with the scramblers on hard packed like stone, I'm like, yeah, you're special. Just go fuck off. I actually kind of want to go back and do that road again, just to be like, yeah, this, you can pretty much take up any bike anywhere, just whatever.
we went on a horse ride in a national park in Pennsylvania, and it was like a 12-mile dirt gravel slash I don't know what road. And that's all I kept thinking. I'm like, somewhere there's a guy in a BMW at a Starbucks going, I bought this adventure bike because it'll go anywhere.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I'm thinking we're just going to dump it. At some point, we're going to drop it. At least we're going slow. It's not going to hurt.
And that's, the whole time, like anytime I was going downhill and there was a lot of that, I always had my bike in like neutral and stuff because I'm like, if I dump, I don't want to throttle out. I don't want the bike to take off on me and stuff like that. I want it to just lay down so I can pick it up and keep going. um, it was an adventure. And the other fun thing about that was I've replaced my engine guard with a Linby bar, which is much lower,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot thicker, so it doesn't have. I'm not able to put the front of a road glide. The fairing has these little fairing supports that actually come down and like kind of clamp onto your engine guard.
Okay.
I'm not able to use those. So the time that I did this, I rode without those clamps on, and my bike was fine. I went to a Harley dealership a couple months later, and they were looking at my bike, and they're like, well, "Where are your fairing clamps?" And I'm like, "Nah, I took those off a while ago." And they're like, "You can't do that. The fairing will fall off." I'm like, "Yeah, let me tell you about this road trip I just had. If that's not going to make the fairing fall off, nothing's going to make the fairing fall off." Like, I don't know what kind of world you're living in here.
I have so much respect for that because I think that um, there's so many people that are just so afraid to take their Harley out of the museum when, if it's a 1% chance of rain, they don't want to ride it. And there's nothing I enjoy more than seeing just filthy bike. It's
Uh, I'm torn. So a filthy bike to me means you've been riding it. But then the other part of my brain is like, I need to clean this bike. Not because it needs to be clean, but because scientifically speaking, a well cleaned, well waxed bike gets better gas mileage and runs better on roads and highways because like the
there's
wind
less
is like it's
friction,
slicker
sure.
over. Yeah. So in one way I'm like, oh, check out that bike you've really been riding. It's covered in bug guts. And then the other way I'm like, oh, you're gonna have to stop for gas more.
So you're out there with like the heavy ceramic coat, and you're polishing it.
Oh, yeah, sometimes I don't even put I don't have a lot of patience for
Okay.
stuff like that. So it's like I try and do it, but at the same time I get bored and I leave. Um, but yeah, it is funny to see the people who are just afraid to ride in like different weather. I mean, like I just took a trip to Vermont like 2 weeks ago. I threw up a video for it, I think last week, where my buddy Chris and I went up and drank at a bunch of different bars and breweries in
Mm-hmm.
Vermont. We went up on a Thursday to avoid all the July 4th traffic. And then Friday, it just downpoured. So we left our bikes at the hotel and we took an Uber, which probably was a good idea because we went to a lot of bars. But Saturday, we're like, fuck it, let's go home. And we leave the hotel, we go to get gas, and it just starts raining. So I rode for 4.5 hours through heavy rain with very, very occasional breaks in the rain. I mean, there were pretty much none. It was just straight heavy rain for 4.5 hours through 3 states to get home with no rain gear because I don't own rain gear. I lost feeling in my fingers in Vermont and just kept going. I was like, whatever, like let's just get this done.
Yeah, it's yeah. That's the one thing that I think the Goldwing that impresses me so much about the new Goldwing is I look at that and I'm like, I'd be okay washing that because that's like 5 minutes to wash it. I look at my bike and I'm like, uh. The wife
Yeah,
says to me this weekend we're in this dealership and she's like, but what would it take if we bought a limited and we wanted those wheels? She's like, don't you like those wheels? I'm like, have you ever seen the wheels on my bike? They probably still have the original dirt on them than when I bought it. I'm terrible with the wheels.
I'll throw some rim cleaner on there, like just some spray on wash off rim cleaner. That is the extent of my rim cleaning.
You know, it's you were talking about the Indians earlier. I hadn't been into an Indian dealership in forever, and I was talking to Salty and Sprinkles when they were on. So the next weekend we went into this Indian dealership, and I'm looking at these bikes. I'm like, man, these are gorgeous. And all right home, we're talking about like, oh, you know, what if we bought a Roadmaster? And then I'm thinking, I don't want to clean that. That's, you know, there's
You
like,
get the all black one, you're good.
yeah, but the old all black one takes away all the coolness because they made it like a Harley. They took all the lights and stuff off it. I think it's one of them.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like a lot of their bikes look like Harleys, and I know I've made fun of that before, but I think that they should just keep doing that. Like just making Harleys, like make Indians that are basically Harleys, what Harleys would be if Harley actually took the time to actually update them every year and not just change the paint color. Because I mean that's all they're doing is they're like, I mean, like their chieftain is a street glide that, you know, that's probably what the street glide would look like if Harley actually took the time to update it once in a while instead of just repainting it and selling you the same fucking bike over and over again.
Well, that's what I was thinking because Rushmore was 2014, which is when mine is. So is that going to be the year? So is it 20? Was it 2024? Right? Would that be the year that they're going to do something big? Because you know they had the big launch today, and that's out of the box. So you know,
Well, I mean, they've already messed with the Rushmore. Like if you get a Road Glide, I would say don't go newer than a 2019.
okay.
Because 2019 is they went to the 114, which they're still using now. But in 2020, that's when they started taking stuff away from the bike and still charging you the same or more.
Really,
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, in 2020, you know how the Road Glide has like those two like ram airs on either side of the headlight.
Mm-hmm.
You can 18 and 19 they have like little buttons. You hit them and it opens and closes the
Oh,
vent.
that's right. Yes.
In 2020 they removed that. They removed the heel shifter. They took away one of the key fobs. um, they stopped painting a lot of the stuff. Like if you look right behind the gauges on the bike, that part's now raw plastic. If you look behind the windshield, like that part's now raw plastic. In 2018 and 2019 they were painting that stuff. um,
Hmm.
they changed they took away a few other things too, but those were like the really big main ones. Is they stripped all that stuff off. Then in 2021 they got rid of the hydraulic clutch. And I thought it was funny because they were like, we're getting rid of it because it's not as reliable, it doesn't work as well, it's not that good, but if you'd like to spend $300 for an upgrade, we'll put it on. And it's like, okay, if it's an upgrade, why? Like when did like not as reliable turn into an upgrade?
I saw a meme the other day and I thought it was funny. It's like if you think you're having a bad day at work, think about the guy that's whole job is to put on the windshield on whatever Harley Davidson it is, and knowing that 5 minutes after it leaves the showroom, it's being removed. It's like,
The windshield, the seat, the shocks. I mean, let's be honest. One of the rarest things you will ever see in the wild is a stock Harley.
I really think that I still think that they need to either partner with a Legends and Oland, you know, something like that, which obviously they won't do because it's their cash cow, or they need to make a bike that comes with, you know, no handlebars, no seat, no suspension, no windshield, and no lights, and let me just decide from there what I want.
Well, one of the things I said that I'd really like to see that I don't foresee them doing is I know that Harley, you know, they're in a very difficult spot right now. They're trying to keep all their old timers, like, you know, still buying bikes, and they're trying to attract the youth. And the biggest problems that they have are what the youth wants is not what the old timers want, and vice versa.
Hmm.
So they're really stuck in this, like, predicament where they can't figure out how to get out. And one of the things that I really think they should do, and I feel like it's a very easy solution, is get all your R&D guys in there, get all your development guys in there, take like your baggers, redo those frames, like work on those frames so they can take a liquid cooled engine or an air cooled engine. So they're either taking the M8 or they're taking the new Revolution engine. Set up the rear end so it's on a monoshock. And then, like, you could actually, Harley does this already. Like, they've got, like, the Road Glide, the Road Glide Special, the Road Glide CVO, the Road Glide Limited or whatever. They repackaged the same bike 50 different ways and they just bolt on different shit and they call it something new. So if you could set it up where it could take the liquid cooled engine or the air cooled, you would appeal to both generations because you'd be able to, like, put out that Road Glide that's got the air cooled M8 on there for your old timers. And then you'd be able to, like, put out a Road Glide or a Street Glide or, Road King or one of the 100 other glides that they make every year. And you'd be able to market it as the performance line or the sport line. So it'd be like the Road Glide Sport, and it would have
Hmm.
inverted shocks, the liquid cooled engine, a monoshock, the stuff that people are the younger generations looking for. And you would be able to do that with minimal cost because you're not putting out a whole new brand of bike. You're not trying to get people to buy the live wire or, whatever, the like a V Rod or something like that. You're trying to get them to buy a Road Glide that has 125 horsepower under it while
I,
not alienating the people who don't want that.
that's where I think that they could keep the ultra limited line for, well, it's not the whatever the hell we're calling it this week because it keeps changing. But take the Road Glide Limited, make that the boomer bike, for lack of a better word, the standard Harley, and then take the Road Glide and dump all the tech into it. Because to me, the Road Glide's the direct competitor of the Goldwing, of the Challenger. Like, to me, there should be, like you said, there should be two different lines. There should be
Yeah.
I want a motorcycle, or I want a tech bike, or you're somewhere in between.
Well, that's where it'd be like, Road Glide Special, Road Glide Sport. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's that easy. Like, the the Revolution engine is going to be a V twin. The M8 is a V twin. I understand that they're not going to be the exact, like, one for one match, but your R&D guys could figure out how to, like, set it up so the bolt patterns on that frame are going to accept either engine, and you're going to be able to put those bikes out. Hell, you could even have, like, that main part of the frame. You could have two different versions and then have everything else bolt into it, like, the swing arm in the back, the front forks and stuff like that. So you could have two different ones that, accept, like, either engine. It's not.
And it's weird too because I hear, like, especially on Facebook, you see it. But you hear the older generation of the Harleys riders going on and on about the Pan America, and it's the death of Harley because everything's the death of Harley. And then I'm seeing the pictures that my dealership's posting of these guys that are buying these bikes, and I'm like, no, no way. Like, the two pictures I've seen have been guys with their shirts tucked in, with their big phone on their belt carrier, and they're somebody's grandpa, and good for them that they're still riding, but they're switching. So
Yep.
the argument's not valid. I think people are just afraid of change.
Well, that's the thing, is people don't like change. Harley owners definitely don't like change. But I mean, they just don't like change and they'd rather complain than actually try it. I said in the beginning when the Pan America was, like, kind of floating around before it was officially announced, I'm really interested in it. And it's not because of the Pan America. I think that thing's ugly. But I'm interested in everything that Harley actually did with it because it's got the new engine that's doing 120 horsepower. They have the inverted front shocks. They have all LED lighting on the thing. They have like the ride command. They have all this stuff that all their competitors have been doing for years. And yeah, they're doing it on their ugliest freaking bike humanly possible, but they're showing that they can do it, and they can do it at a competitive price point, because up until this point, the only time you could really get a Harley with like all LED on it is like the Civo, like the
Yeah, the
CVOs, or
CVOs,
like,
because even mine doesn't. Mine has
yeah,
it's a mix. Well, that's
yeah,
what I thought
mine came with
was.
bulbs and stuff, and I'm like, you're kidding me, right?
I like actually what I think is really funny is they tell you that they have these, it comes with LEDs. And then you put a custom dynamics LED next to it and you're like, is that light still working?
Yeah.
Did it just go out? What just happened?
Well, it's funny because like my headlight is from Electric Light Company. I've got like the shark tooth light on it.
Yeah, they're actually in Pennsylvania, I think.
Yeah,
They're
so
not that far from me.
I was right next to my friend on it, my buddy Chris on his Chieftain. It was nighttime, and he turns on his bike first, and like he's got his Indian LED headlight, and it was okay. I turned on my bike. His headlight just disappeared. You didn't even know it. Like, yeah, like it. Mine completely drowned out everything, and he was like, "What the hell just happened?" And but at the same time, it's like, I swear to God, like Harley owns a light bulb factory. They cranked out like 1 billion bulbs in like the 70s, convinced that there would never be a change, and now they're just working through them all. They don't want to like cut their losses.
My Genesis 4, my custom dynamics turn signals were brighter than my daymakers. Like when you'd walk away and you look at the bike running, you're like, the turn signals are brighter than the daymaker.
It's pretty frightening.
It's ridiculous. And you brought up something interesting too that I thought was pretty cool with the announcement of ride mode. I think that that's putting that in a, I don't know, are they calling is the Sportster S then going to be their entry level bike at that point? I don't know where that's going to fall in, but to have ride modes and then to have that LED dash, that's pretty cool.
Well, it is pretty cool, and it was even cooler 6 months ago when Indian did it in their Chief.
That's true. But you have to understand now, in all fairness, they had to fly those people to Scotland. And they
Well,
had to do the video. And they had to get
so
that bagpiper guy, and he made that video. I don't care what anybody says.
and that's one of the problems that I saw with that, because I watched the same thing. That was one of the big problems I saw with that, is like they were talking about, they're like, oh, this is innovative, this is cutting edge, we're right at the forefront of technology. I'm like, dude, you're doing the same stuff that Indian did like 6 months ago.
Yeah,
And
but
like
yeah.
the
But at
ride
some
command
point,
and
what
stuff,
else
they've
can
been
you
doing it
do?
for years.
You know what I mean? What really can you do at this point that's going to be, everybody's going to have something
Well,
similar.
and I'm totally good with that. I am totally good. Like I'm not trying to burn down Harley for
No,
actually
I
catching
understand.
up. My issue is like Harley Harley is a company, and Harley's fan base talk like Harley is the only bike out there. So
Hmm.
they're always grading on a curve. I mean, even that video today where they're talking about the Sportster, they were talking about all the amazing things they did. Like, oh, we won in like flat tracks. We set this world record, in like the sand dunes and all this stuff. And then they didn't mention all the decades between that and this current bike. So they straight up just glossed over the fact that they haven't done shit for like 40 years.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we're redefining, we're cutting edge, we're this. It's like, it took you decades. You have not done anything. And when they're talking about like the sports, are like, it's so cutting edge, and like we've always like kept it at the forefront, it's always been like, the what. I'm like, dude, you haven't done shit to that engine for decades except make it fuel injected. That is the only thing that's changed. That has an Evo engine in it. It has the oldest engine in production that Harley makes right now. You have done nothing to advance the technology on this bike for decades. But that's the way like Harley talks. Like, they are the only bike out there. They're always like at the forefront. They're always doing this, and it's like, you're not. Just stop.
Well, how long is it Zeiss or Zimmerman, whatever the
The
new
CEO,
CEO is? He hasn't been there that long. What, a couple years?
if that at best. He's
So I
been there
mean,
long enough to kill the Bronx and a couple other things.
yeah, and who knows at this rate? Maybe they're sitting on that, and that's going to come back out. I think that, yeah, to your point, it's kind of hard, right? Because it's the whole Android versus iPhone. Whoever came out with it first, well, they had it before we did, or vice versa. But I don't know. I thought the digital dash was cool. I always thought that a road glide would be really cool if there were no nothing. I just want a giant like 12-inch screen.
See,
You could like sort of manipulate it and
I used to like that when I was younger, and nowadays, like I don't know, I'm older, I'm crankier, and I like analog gauges.
okay.
Like it's like I do like the digital stuff. I like the technology in there, but there's certain things that make me happy to see in like old school analog gauges. I love the look. I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things that works for me.
Well, at least that one they put somewhere where you can see it.
Yeah.
I love how they put the heritage on the tank. Like if you have a full frame helmet on, you have no idea what you're doing.
Oh, it's the same with I mean, my buddy Dave, who's been in a couple of my videos, he's got the Road King, and I took that thing home for him. And when I was riding it, I had to keep looking straight down to see the gauges. It might be my height. I don't know. I've never really talked to him about it. Now he uses it, but I mean, for sure, I have to look down to see how fast I'm going and
I
stuff
can't
like
see
that.
my GPS on my bike. A full frame helmet. I have to look down. I'm like, that's why number one reason I went to Road Glide is I can actually see the GPS for once.
And you know what's really funny is like, I love the gauges and the stuff on the Road Glide, but going back to Indian and stuff, their Challenger, they actually set everything up better
Hmm.
because everything is in this just box. Like, your gauges are here, your infotainment's here, everything's here. I remember the first time I took like the Road Glide for a test ride, I went to use my directional. I was riding with like the Hog membership group or whatever at Boston Harley, and I looked around and I'm like, is my directional on? I don't know where the arrow is. Like, what's going on? And it's off to the left underneath like the fuel gauge or something. It's like,
Oh, okay.
oh, there it is. But so like stuff like that was kind of silly. But yeah, it's definitely easier to see than some of their other bikes for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like that it feels roomier.
Oh, it does.
Now, how do you? I mean, do you believe? And I've asked other people this, and no one's ever said no. So, but I'm still curious. Do you feel that fixed fairing does make the difference at high speed?
Um, so for me, it's I guess I'd give you a completely different answer
Okay.
because I came from bikes that will give you wind. I like wind. So I've always used like smaller windshields and stuff like that. So my Road Glide tends to be much different than a lot of other people's. I use a very small Clockworks windshield on there, so it really does nothing for me.
Okay.
And over the winter, I actually have it in my Road Glide upgrade videos. I dropped the fairing 2 inches and I moved it out an inch. So it actually sits lower and gives me even less wind protection. And then with the smaller windshield, I have less wind protection. And what I found out from my Vermont trip, I have less rain protection as well.
Oh, you know what? I remember you talk. I remember vaguely seeing that, and I didn't know you could do that.
Oh yeah, I could actually drop it another inch if I wanted to.
Interesting. So, can I raise it up, or can you only drop it?
I don't know. Like, I haven't seen a bracket where you can raise it. I don't know if anybody would want to because at some point you just can't see over the fairing. You're just staring at the gauges while you drive into the back of
I
a
got
car.
GPS. Who cares?
But
That's
yeah,
funny.
so I brought it down 2 inches specifically to get more wind
Okay.
because I like having the wind and stuff like that. I mean, sometimes I regret my decisions come like December up here in New England, but I still do it.
Yeah, I do that with the windshield. I swap it out. I just recently got another. I got a Clockworks windshield, a smaller one, so it's kind of nice to be able to swap it around.
I would, and I've thought about it, and quite honestly, like, so I am weird about stuff, and this is actually another reason why I kind of like the Challenger, because like the windshield goes up and down, all that stuff. But I've looked at the bigger windshields, and I refuse to get one because I think it makes your bike look dorky. It's
Mm-hmm.
just
That's
like,
fair.
and it's like, and that's why I have a small windshield. A lot of the stuff on my bike, well, I won't say a lot, but certain things on my bike are definitely like fashion over function
Sure.
versus the other way around. And like, I mean, I've mentioned that on other people's videos too. Like, somebody actually got mad at me on a Moto Blonde video because she did like the cup holder install.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's wicked cool, but I could never put a cup holder on my handlebar because I feel like I'm just 80 at that point. And
Ah!
like, and some dude got so butthurt. He was like, oh, well, you know, when you're like thirsty on the road and stuff. And it's like, dude, I could do like 250 miles before I need gas. Where the fuck do you think I'm riding? Where I'm like, oh shit, I need a drink now or I'm going to die. Like, what's going on in your world where like in that 250-mile window, if you're not drinking, you're gonna die.
I see it. I see it big in Texas. Like you see a lot of the folks that in Texas that have them. But yeah,
What
I never quite saw that idea.
the problem is you see it up here a lot too, and it's really, really big, but and it's actually part of why I don't get it, because why I don't get the cup holder, because when you see it up here, it's always like some extra large Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, or it's like a 7-Eleven big gulp. And it's always some dude with white New Balances, like, you know, like 900 years old. And like he's got the bucket helmet and like the old lady in the back. And I'm just like, nah, man, I can't do it.
Yeah, it's
Wearing jorts and like a Hanes tank top. And
we were on our honeymoon and we ran into this couple that had a Can-Am. And I was kind of, I'm looking at it and they come out and I said, the lady, she's like, oh, do you guys ride? I said, yeah, I forget what we had at the time. We had our Suzuki or something. And she's going on and on. She's telling me, the reason we have this is it's safer than a motorcycle because motorcycles are dangerous. This is so much safer.
yeah,
I kid
sure.
you not. She's wearing yoga pants, sneakers, a tank top, and a half helmet. And I'm like, but okay, hey man, you do you, boo. Like if that makes you feel good about yourself.
I mean, it's the same as like the people who talk about like you get all these people, especially in like the Harley groups and stuff. I got super, super mad at one guy one time in a Harley group because he was like, is it just me or does anyone else drive with their high beams on all the time? And I was like, dude, you're a dick. Like, I was like, first off, let me put it this way. Like, I was driving home and it was actually the week before. So I was like, I wonder if it was this dude. If it was, I'd like to go to his house and punch him in the face. But I was driving home and I live in a town, doesn't have a lot of street lights, narrower roads, stuff like that. And I was in my car. I'm driving home and this bike starts coming in the other direction. And this dude definitely has his high beams on. They're bright in my eyes, burning my fucking retinas out. I can't see shit. And like at one point in time, I almost hit him because like, the road's kind of on a curve. I can no longer see the road. So, this dude put himself in danger. He put me in danger. And then once I passed him, all I could see were freaking sunspots.
Sure.
So, it's still making it dangerous for me afterwards. And it's like, you are a total dick. And like, I responded to the guy and I was like, you know what? Why don't you try buying a headlight that's not from 1970, first off? And second off, like, driving around with your headlights, you're going to blind people. and those people you're blinding are oncoming traffic. Like, you're a moron. Like, what are you doing?
I've had people with the day makers and the white to amber turn signals flash their high beams at me during the day, let alone at night. And I'm like, I'm just running regular lights, people.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know my lights are bright, but my high beam is really bright. And when I ride, I'm not, at night, I'm not riding down the middle of the road and stuff. So it's like, I'm trying not to blind anyone. It's when people are like intentionally like doing this, and it's like, dude, you are such a dick. You are endangering other people. Like, you need to stop. And you always get those people in those groups, but these are the same people that, they'll sit there and go, yeah, I'm going to do that because people don't pay attention. They're on their cell phones or doing this and that. But then they get on their bike in their jorts, their Hanes tank top, their fake half shell that's not even DOT approved, no gloves, and they go riding. And it's like, dude, you don't care about safety. You like, you claim you care about safety, but when it's time to put on the gear, you're full of shit. Like, you're absolutely full of shit.
Yeah, the motorcycle community is definitely a. We were talking about this earlier. Yeah, it's like anything on the internet. They can argue about anything. You're right. You had the wrong shoelaces. That's the reason you crashed. You're
Yep.
like, okay, sure.
Well, I always see that too. It's like, there was some loose gravel on the road and it caught me by surprise. And it's like, you have one job, and it's to watch the road. How did it catch you by surprise? Loose gravel just doesn't jump in front of you.
Well, yeah, and you see that with the grass things, the memes about the
Yep.
grass in the road. It's like, okay, but was it preventable? Like, I understand it's not safe. I'm not arguing that,
Oh
but
yeah. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it
It's like
preventable?
sand, loose gravel, grass, water, random shit, small babies. Like, yeah, it's dangerous to
Small
have
babies
that.
are the worst too.
Yeah, keep moving. That all that stuff's dangerous to have in the road. But I mean, like, one of the mottos I always kind of live by is like, keep your head on a swivel and assume that everyone is out to kill you. And when I'm riding, I'm always looking. I'm always looking ahead. I'm always doing the 2 to 4 seconds ahead. I'm looking, left to right to see if, people are coming out, things are showing up. I do whatever I can to minimize the chances of dying. And so, like, when I see these, like, things where it's like, oh, well, I was driving down a road and like, some grass jumped out and pushed my bike over and started stabbing me. It's like, what were you doing? Like, how is this a surprise to you?
Yeah, yeah, it's always somebody else's fault. So I guess as we wrap this up, we have to save the best for last for this. So for anyone that hasn't seen your grind my gears, that's by far the greatest thing on a Friday ever, as far as I'm concerned.
which to me is like the worst thing.
But I think it's so funny because it's so unique.
it
And it's
it
even
is.
funnier when people don't get the joke,
Oh
which
yeah,
makes it
that's.
1,000 times funnier.
I can't tell you how many hate comments I've gotten where it's like, I've had it picked apart where like one guy was like, "Oh, you have a green screen, you're not using it," and it's like, cool, you didn't watch past the first minute of the video. I start by, it's kind of like the pre-show. Like, I do a little introduction, we go to the intro, and then we come back and the green screen's being utilized. Calm down. Um, or I get like people that take it seriously. The Roll Rock video is perfect for that one because so many people were upset that I reviewed a helmet I don't have. And I'm like, it's not a review, it's a joke. Don't take this seriously. And I'd say probably my favorite, and it's probably the why not just keep picking on Harley. I did a CVO grinds my gears, and I said that CVO owners, the only two arguments that they have for owning a CVO is the resale value is fantastic and you get a custom paint job. And some dude like tried to shout me down about how I don't know anything about a CVO. And To prove that he was right, he told me about how his resale value was great on the bike. It's like awesome. So I told you that resale value and paint's your only two arguments, and you proved me wrong by telling me about the resale value. Good job.
We were looking at the CVO Road Glide just to kind of look at it, and my wife's like, "Well, you know what? Like, what if I wanted you to get that bike? Like, would you buy it?" And I'm like, "Well, the problem is, I look at this bike, and I'm like, well, the seat would have to go instantly, the shocks would have to be replaced. Like, it's cool looking, but by the time."
And that was the thing. I came that close to getting the 2019 Mako Blue CVO. I love the
Oh,
way that thing looks. And I stopped myself because it was a little over 40 grand. And I looked at it, I'm like, I'd have to change the bars. I'd have to change the seat. I'd change the suspension. I'd get rid of this. I'd get rid of that. And I went through all the stuff that I'd change on the bike. I'm like, by the time I'm done, that's a $60,000 bike. I'll just stick with my special and do all the stuff that I want on the special. I don't care about resale value. I care about enjoying my ride. And
well,
that,
and yes, and you're into that. So let's what's a Street Glide Special basic? 26, 27. Let's call it 28 even, right?
uh, maybe, I don't know. I,
And I think the CVO, if I remember, is 41. You could do so much damage in the parts department
yep.
with that money.
Well, I wouldn't even do it in the parts department. I go buy parts that actually look good.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like you could, but even if you ordered them from your dealer, you
Yep,
could get
yep.
factory 47 bars or what have you. It's it's amazing to me that, I mean, I get it. It's ride what you ride, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing because like you said that's the thing that kept going on in my head. The guy's like, "Oh, but this is a limited and this and that." I'm like, "Okay, well, I have one,
Well, and
and
that was
I
the thing
know
I thought
what
was
had to
funny.
be replaced just for even for it to be comfortable."
Yeah. And that's what I thought was funny too, is like I had people that came to me and they're like, well, you're just making fun of a CVO because you can't afford one. I'm like, no, 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 I can definitely afford one. That's not an issue. The issue is I don't need to spend $40,000 on a bike that I'm going to tear apart anyway for the status of saying that I own a CVO. If you want a CVO, high five to you. You can do your thing, but I'm not going to buy it just to say I have a CVO. Like I'm not going to increase my monthly payment just so I can prove you wrong and show that I can afford one.
Well,
It's just,
that and I don't know. Well, I take that back. I probably do know a few people, but most people that buy the Harley, and the first argument is the haters make, well, you have to get rid of stuff. You have to get rid of this, you have to get rid of that. So, most people don't have a stock bike to begin with. Cuz to me at my height, I needed bars immediately and I wanted a seat and suspension. So right there, you know, I
yep.
mean, bars alone will cost you.
Oh yeah.
And it's
I know. I've had two
amazing to
different
me
sets
that
on mine.
people that buy a bike that don't properly have it fitted and then they complain that, the bike's terrible. It's like, yeah, but if you spent 5 or 10 minutes with somebody that actually knew what they were doing, and you bought a seat that wasn't a Harley seat, the upgraded Harley seat's still a Harley seat.
Yep. Yep.
Not, you know.
But yeah, to bring that all back, yeah, the whole grinds my gears thing.
Yeah, we got sidetracked, sorry.
Oh no, 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 it's fine. I kind of sidetracked that. Yeah, I did not expect that to get as popular as it did.
And I feel like Harley softballed you this week. I mean, I feel like they just set you up for like
Oh
a
yeah, they
25-minute grind my gears at least.
which is good because I mean honestly, when I did the first grinds my gears, when I did the Rorock grinds my gears, at the time I was only doing one video a week. My Wednesday video is my real video. I refer to it as my real video. That's where I do like my reviews, my builds, my rides, my drinking, all that stuff. Like the stuff the channel's about. Um I wanted to do a video, start like have like random videos on Friday that were just like shorter videos, 5 or 6 minutes, kind of a throwaway video that, is just kind of fun and just kind of, get out there a little bit more and stuff. So the Rural Rock Grinds My Gears one, it was really just meant to be a one shot sort of joke thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I I was just watching Family Guy like the night before, and like the old episode came on where he did Grinds My Gears, and I'm like, oh yeah, this will be a fun way to go about this. So I mean, those videos are dumb, and like I make no attempt to not make them dumb. They're like 9 times out of 10, they're done in one shot. I I think there's maybe I think I only have one where there's some editing where I went back and re-recorded some stuff, but they're done in one shot. It's just me randomly ranting about something. It's about 5 minutes long. It's the dumbest arguments. A lot of the stuff's not fact checked. It's just meant to be dumb. And the Rural Rock thing became super popular. I mean, half my views on my channel are that video alone. Uh, Honestly, like half the views that I have are from that video alone. And I have like 70 videos. um, and it kind of took on a life of its own. So I was like, all right, I'll just keep doing these. And I mean, like, when I first started doing them, I threw them out on a Friday. I threw them out on 7 a.m. I didn't really promote or advertise them. I just kind of, it's just kind of meant to be a throwaway video. And now it's like those are the most watched things on my channel 99% of the time. And I'm like, I'm sitting here going, son of a bitch. Now I know how like all those like musicians and stuff feel when they write a one hit wonder and then they're like, I just want to be taken seriously as a musician. I'm sitting here putting out like videos on Wednesday that I try and take some time to do and do like real reviews and like rides to different destinations and all this stuff, and like those get like 20 views. And then I do a 5 minute video where I'm like, IPAs suck, and I get 120 views.
But I think it's good though, especially now. I think there's so much negativity on YouTube, so I think it's and someone said, and I don't know. I take everything with a grain of salt as far as YouTube's concerned, but it's you start finding your niche. Like certain things work and certain things don't. Like my mental health videos, they never do good, but that's not the point of them. They're
Oh
done
yeah.
more to reach to a smaller audience. But yeah, as a creator, it sucks when you think you nailed something and people are like sucks.
Yeah. And well, the thing is, it's like, it's not even like I get the suck stuff. Like, we were talking about this earlier off air. Like, for the past like 14 years, I've been doing a toy drive where, I hit up friends, family, neighbors, all that stuff. And I'm like, hey, give me money. And they do that. And I go out and I go toy shopping and I deliver it to a nonprofit, the same one for the last 14 years. A couple of years ago, they had me come and speak at one of their fundraiser dinners or
Awesome.
breakfasts and stuff like that, which was hilarious in itself. There's actually a really cool story attached to that one, but like I've always done it in the shadows. I've never really taken. I've never been attached to it for them. Like I remember one year I delivered a bunch of toys and they were like, "Hey, we've got some kids in the waiting room because it's a pediatric center that they take care of uh, poor and underprivileged families that can't afford medical care for their kids."
Okay.
And they offer like free services, low cost services, and they take care of children all the way up until they're 18. I was actually a product of this when I was younger, so it holds a very special place for me. The founder was actually my doctor from the time I was born to the time she died. uh,
Wow.
so like this is my way of giving back. And like one time I was donating toys and they were like, hey, we got a couple patients in the waiting room right now. We were wondering if you would like to give them some of the first toys so we can get a picture and like put it up on our Facebook and all that stuff. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And it was for a few reasons. Like, and one of them was, you know, if these kids know that don't know that there's a Santa, or if they think there's a Santa, I don't want it ruined by me handing them a toy. If they're old enough to know that their parents are buying them stuff, I don't want them to think that their parents can't provide for them, and some random dumbass white guy in a corner with a freaking giant ass beard and a stupid shirt on is handing them freaking toys. I want that illusion there that either Santa is delivering them their toys or their family is delivering them their toys, not some random dude in the corner. So I've always kind of like hung out in the shadows on these. But I did a video last year for it because I was super excited. We raised $4,000. That's the most I've ever raised doing the toy drive, and put together the video. I put it out. I'm like, this thing is gonna explode. How can you not love this? Like, toy drive, kids, charity, this and that. Um, I put that out in like December, and I don't even think it has 100 views yet.
Oh,
But I put out a video where I'm like, Rorok are a bunch of dorks with butt plugs. That's got like 10,000 views, and it's only been out for like 3 months. So I sit there and I'm just like, what the hell, man?
I think there's a part of me that people, and you see it more. We talked about this a little bit earlier before we started. Is that I think there's people that just want to be aggravated. I did a video on how to properly fuel your Harley, and it was totally a joke. And it was like, it was just fun. And people are like, he probably doesn't even own a Harley and this and that. I'm like, just go back and look at the last 18,000 videos behind it. Like, it's a joke, people. Like, lighten up. Like, I feel like yeah, it sucks because that's a great story, man. Good for you for doing that.
Well, it's just, and I mean, I think people, like you said, they want to be angry. They want to be. I mean, like just recently, I put out a picture on Instagram where I got my new stickers, which are the Grinds My Gears stickers, and I took a picture of the backs of the sticker, and like the first line was like, new sticker, who dis? And then like I kind of spaced it out, so you had to hit more and actually read like what
Oh,
I put
okay.
in there. And it just said like, hey, yeah, I got new stickers, but here's the thing, I'm not going to be the first to show them to you. uh, DM me, tell me you want stickers. First 10 people I'm going to send stickers to, and you guys can show them. And part of that for me was like, I figured like some smaller channels would hit me up and stuff. So I could plug those channels and like, some cross pollination and all
Sure.
that. And it would be awesome. I had somebody like comment, they're like, oh, nice white sticker. And it's like, clearly you didn't take the time to read the post. Like, you just wanted to be angry, dude. So whatever.
It's a shame, and it's so hard. And I mean, clearly it doesn't get to you, but it's so hard. Like when you're just trying to have some fun and people flip out, and you're like, dude.
I honestly just like trolling them. I mean, if you,
Oh, I love
for,
the people that IM you about relationships and jobs.
oh
Though
yeah, yeah.
they're the
I was gonna
best.
say, for those of you who don't follow my Instagram, if you look at my Instagrams on
I'll put
Thursdays,
all the links on the bottom.
yeah, I tend to like, I'll put up posts of like people that are DMing me where they're trying to be my promoter or my new mail order bride, like, and I mess with them. I just drag them, and I do that in the comments on some of my videos too, because like I'm not going to get into a keyboard warrior sort of thing with you, but I am going to make you feel really dumb for like coming on my like channel and saying dumb things. And
Plus, it drives the algorithm. So keep commenting.
oh
Comment
yeah,
all
yeah.
you want. Come
I had
back.
I had one guy who was so angry with me on the Rorok review, and we went back and forth on the comments for a little while, and then he kind of disappeared. And then Rorok on their 3.0 had to push it back like a month because they had some liner issues. And right when that announcement was made, that same guy came back to the comments and he was like, I still don't agree with you on the Rorok thing, but I can't get my helmet for another month. So what kind of helmet are you wearing?
Sucker!
Oh, it's such a good time.
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
awesome.
vindication.
Well, so if we as we wrap this up, and I'm going to put links for all your social media in there, but where's the best place to find you? You see your schedule release is what, Wednesday, Friday?
Yeah, so Wednesday and Friday, occasionally I'll drop out a little nugget on Monday if I'm bored. Those are very rare. The best places to find me are Instagram and YouTube. I thought about all the other ones, but that requires effort that I'm just not going to put forth. So those are the two ones to get me at.
Cool. Well, Ben, I really appreciate your time, sir. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for
And
having me on. It's been
goodbye to
a good time.
ET. Hopefully, he phones home at some point. Thank you again, sir.
Yeah, man.
See
Thanks a
ya.
lot. Have a good one.